today we're talking about a very large recovery community. We've got three very distinct projects. We've got a cafe, we've got a massive growing project, we got, you know, a big building with loads of 18 people living in it. We've got 5 or 6 people employed and all the rest of it. But that didn't happen overnight. That's happened over the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah.
How did the moment occur when you invited me, and I know you invited more than just me, but 3 or 4 people to stand outside a disused youth hostel and you share a vision with us? How did that arrive? Yes?
Out of sheer desperation, to be honest with you, Wulf. But no, like I say, basically, I mean, after Glasgow, got really involved in AGRO, and we did the work with AGRO for about 6-7 years. But it was always this idea that I knew that what we needed to do with AGRO was concentrate it. We had like a couple of meetings a week, we did a bit of gardening, we played football or whatever. But what we needed to do was concentrate and put everything under one roof. And it's always been this idea of like Biker Grove, but for people with drink and drug problems. So just basically a safe place for people that was clean and sober where they could be. Obviously the residential element, but open to the wider community. So the doors open 7 in the morning, shut 11 at night. The only criteria to get involved is that you're clean and sober. Oh, basically 3 Ds: no drink, no drugs, no dickheads. It's always been the rule from sort of day one. So we kind of, like I said, wanted to concentrate what was going on, but like I say, and getting really frustrated with the whole AGRO setup, I have to say as well, because when we set AGRO up, it was a fantastic idea, but we set it up as a community interest company, and we got people involved that were basically directors of treatment agencies and stuff like that, and they were just there to protect their agency's interest and weren't there to support the organisation. We ended up with a load of talkers and very little doers, and I just got to the point where I just got pissed off with it and thought, I can do this bigger, better, quicker ourselves and cut all the crap out, and also remove the chances out of there, remove these people out of there that aren't supporting what we're doing, that are just trying to keep an eye on it and monitor it. So I saw a grant that was available through the job centre, and it basically was just for £50,000 for 12 months, and it was to work with people through their flexible support funding initiative. So it was basically people with long-term complex barriers to employment, addiction, offending, homelessness, mental health. So put in for it, had some. It was a bit of it, again, serendipitous story, but we had to in the end we had to register as a charity at the last minute to be able to access the funding. So I did, and then basically that was it to start with. That was me. So the first sort of 12 months was just me working, or first 2 years actually was just me working with a room full of addicts, just basically sort of, and just the youth hostel was being used as emergency accommodation for prison leavers. About 2-3 years, we'd been working, because obviously some of my service users were in there, guys coming out of custody. And the owner was just sick of the same revolving door, and it was full on chaos. I mean, it was absolutely, you remember it yourself.
I do remember. I remember, yeah, it was
full on bedlam. You know, we'd have the police there 4 or 5 times a day. We'd be throwing 4 or 5 lads a week out. We had all sorts. It was carnage, absolute carnage. But on a residential point of view, the recovery programme went very quickly, because all we did really was we just pulled the strings of the AGRO stuff together, solidified that, made that, condensed it down, and then just bolted a load of extra stuff onto the top of it. And again, I have to sort of say we were massively sort of blessed that just a lot of friends of ours, people like yourself, Sarah Flynn, just came along and said, what can we do to help? What can we do to support? What can we offer? You know, so people just started to put on different groups, different activities, and kind of that first 12 months just kind of solidified the foundations. But what it also did was we had to recognise that we had real problems with the residential side, because we weren't working with we weren't housing those guys. They were being housed by the council through like sort of emergency duty of care. But we had a suicide, basically, a near fatal OD and a violent assault in the space of about 3 days. Which was probably like my worst working week ever. But at that point then we just said we've got to take control of the housing. So we looked into it, and like I said, weirdly enough, because we'd had to register as a charity, we can claim this really niche accommodation status, which basically means we sit outside the local housing allowance, we charge our own rents. So we just spoke to the landlord, and basically we had 14 guys that were living with us at the time, and we said we're going abstinence based within or abstinence-based, apart from basically weed's permissible. Well, not weed's permissible, but we won't shut you out for weed. But Class A free in 28 days, we had 14 lads. 2 of them took us up on the offer. The other 12 all asked to get moved to other placements. And then we just need to bring our own guys in. So I mean, two of the early ones said, who's been with us 7 years now, Yatesy, he was our second resident. He's been with us, well, Christchurch, 6.5 years. Obviously, has been working full time for us for 3 years now. But yeah, just we'd always had it as an idea, and it was an idea that I carried ever since that Glasgow weekend and that whole sort of chat, like I said, on the train back with Gilman, and we had tried it. I don't know if you remember, I tried it through AGRO. And then they ironically used the ITEP steering group that had been set up as a legacy from David Best and Kenny Antona's work to basically shit all over it and to stop us from doing it, because it was, again, they were like, because we told them what we were going to do. We said we were going to put a recovery program together, and they were like, yeah, whatever, yeah, you crack on, good lads and all that sort of stuff.